What's up guys, it's me Jeremy. In today's video we're going a little bit further out there compared to the stuff that you're probably used to seeing on this channel, but I did want to mention it since I do think that it's actually a pretty interesting topic. We're going to be taking a look at how League of Legends, along with some of the rest of esports, are talked about amongst the mainstream media. It's obviously cool for us League of Legends players to see the game we love being talked about and shown off to the rest of the world, and these articles help give us a look into how the public understands and perceives the esports phenomenon. Now, not everyone is going to share the same opinions as the players when it comes to esports, and there will always be people who refuse to acknowledge esports as anything more than just children's games, but that makes it all the more cool that big, well-known media outlets will take the chance and cover them in their news. It's a really exciting prospect that should get more people interested in the video game industry overall, as well as helping accelerate the growth of esports themselves. And if you like this video, make sure to hit that like button, and if you don't, definitely hit that dislike. And we're starting off with a big one, the esports documentary titled All Work, All Play, directed by Patrick Creedon. This was released in July last year on Netflix and on Steam, and mostly follows Carmack, the manager of Intel Extreme Masters, one of the biggest esports events in the world, where hundreds of pros from different esports come together to compete. It was pretty well received overall, giving people great insight into not just the scale of events like IEM itself, but also showing the way the industry has grown throughout the years, such as how even now rookies are able to make a living for themselves from pro gaming alone. All Work, All Play also features professional League of Legends teams Cloud9 and Team Solo Mid, which is really cool to see from the perspective of a League player as it goes into their rivalry and struggles to be the best. No documentary or article has done a better job showing how real and thriving the esports industry truly is today, and the skill required to compete at the highest level. Definitely one to watch for any esports enthusiast, and actually a really great way to introduce critics into the industry. Next up, we actually have a Playboy article called Meet League of Legends, the video game turning esports into big business. It was written by Harold Goldberg back in the winter of 2014, and it does a really solid job of explaining what League is all about. It includes a solid description of how the game works, talks about the competitive scene, and some of the most famous players in the scene as well. Harold also talks about how teams from around the world will be practicing up to 15 hours a day, honing their skills to be the best. The article jumps between talking about pro players, the game itself, some background on the creation of Riot Games, and the dawn of competitive online gaming with League of Legends at the top. Overall, the article gives a solid foundation of knowledge to people who aren't familiar with League, along with some insight into harsh realities of becoming a professional gamer. And this one's especially cool to me because I don't think that any of us expected to see League of Legends being talked about on Playboy of all places. The next article has a much more darker tone and was one of the most talked about things online at the time when it came out. The notorious Forbes article by Paul Tassi is best explained by its title, Texas Teen Facing 8 Years After Violent League of Legends Threat. The news sent waves throughout the gaming community, and it honestly really divided people at the time. It was one of the first times that people had started to realize the gravity of what they say and do online, and the implications that things you say might have. Justin Carter was only 19 at the time, and responding to someone calling him insane, he joked, and well, I don't want to go too much into details, but let's just say that he made some violent threats. He followed up with just some joking tones, but it was so disturbing that his address was tracked down and led to his eventual arrest. Whatever your opinions on threats online and their real-life consequences are, you have to agree that this kind of thing really does paint gamers in a terrible light and not something that we want to happen on a huge site like Forbes, so the moral of this story is to be careful what you say and do even online. There's always real people you're interacting with behind the screen, and not everyone's going to agree with what you might think of as a joke. For our next piece, we're looking at something from Soccer AM, which is a British Saturday morning football-based comedy/talk show owned by the ESPN of the UK, and in the early 2015 they posted a video about esports and their guide to professional gaming at the Extreme Masters Championships. Unlike other media outlets that seem to make do with the bare minimum of the research on the topic, Soccer AM received a lot of good feedback from players, especially about how well researched and presented the video itself was. The aim of the video is to explain the legitimacy of esports, showing off the dedication and effort of the pro players and the massive viewer base that they have generated so far. Coverage like this is great for the community because it explains the esports phenomenon in a way that the general public can understand without compromising accuracy or potentially offending the players in the process. It's quite common for the mass media to look down on gamers or esports in general and paint them as almost a joke, but Soccer AM's video was really well put together and free of any condescension. It was great to see and exactly the kind of coverage that the players want to see more of. The Guardian is another British media outlet, a daily newspaper with over 17 million monthly online readers and 161,000 papers distributed each day. And on the 15th of October last year, technology reporter Alex Hearn posted an article titled, "The mainstream is coming for esports, but do esports need it?" And as the name suggests, this article was a great one for us to take a look at for this video because it's taking quite a similar look as we are. The article offers a little bit of background on the popular MOBA genre, but the big focus in on the viewer statistics of Dota, League of Legends, and Twitch to explain the power of esports. Alex argues that mainstream media outlets are using esports as a way to capture a new audience, but just as likely would have the opposite effect. Any people introduced to esports through a website like the BBC would more likely remain on Twitch to be around like-minded individuals than to use the BBC's own resources or streams. That being said, there is a lot of value in the mainstream media covering esports because if nothing else, it helps people realize the legitimacy of the esports industry and makes it more likely that the professionals and hardworking people that make it possible in the first place get their well-due respect. Next up, we've got Business Insider's Harrison Jacobs, which had a pretty interesting article last year, and it was titled, "These guys earn six figures and live for free in Los Angeles just for being great at video games," which, as the name implies, is about the earnings of esports professionals. More specifically, the article follows a day in the life of Team Liquid practicing and competing in the LCS. The money topic is the main focus, as kind of with most esports articles, but we're really starting to see a pattern here. The goal of mainstream media is ideally to help legitimize esports so that they can get their share of the traffic. And to do this, they need to demonstrate that these players are hardworking, self-motivated, and have some professional support when it's needed. These, along with their earnings and the fact that some of them are living on government-issued visas for professional athletes, really help cement the idea that esports like League of Legends are just as legitimate as any other professional sport. That being said, more personal articles like this one definitely do help spread the messy gamer kind of stereotype, which isn't necessarily ideal if we want the world to look at our players as mature professionals, but I guess you could at least always just spin that as dedication to the game anyway. Esports Booms Becomes Global Industry by Will Carr of Fox News was a more recent piece about what makes the industry tick. It talks about how the high viewership and dedicated audience are really good at attracting sponsors and getting people to invest into the industry. The more money flows in, the more valuable the best players become, making it even more lucrative to be at the head of a winning team. There's also a quick mention about one of the other really cool things starting to happen in the esports world, which is colleges wanting to create their own leagues and universities introducing esports scholarships. It's still early days for this kind of thing, but it might end up being an awesome path to professional gaming for dedicated players in the future, along with providing career options for retired players, which has been a point of worry for a lot of people. Not every player goes on to become a coach or a caster, so increasing the number of options for players with such a specific skill set is going to be really important in securing the future of esports. CBS's video, How Video Games Became a Spectator Sport, is an interesting angle that a lot of other articles haven't entirely mentioned. Although it's clear that a lot of people enjoy video games, what hasn't really been discussed is why so many people love watching it. The reporter looks at a few different games as esports and does show people's passion and the viability of the esports industry. The video wasn't entirely well received by players though, as at parts it was a little bit condescending. Although it did a good job of explaining the success of the industry, it did descend a little bit into the not a real sport kind of debate that really came from the reporter's own self-claimed lack of understanding, which he attributed to his age. And this is a point worth talking about though. I mean, do you guys think age should be a barrier into esports, or do you think that anyone can get and should get into the spectating side of things if they happen to enjoy the games already? Let us know what you think in the comments below. And for our next piece, it's a 2014 New York Times video titled League of Legends' Profitable World, which gives a fan perspective and demonstrates how the LCS is used to promote League of Legends. The video is really seeking what makes League of Legends itself such a profitable game, and the accompanying article mentions how the founders of Riot Games were told their business model would never work if they didn't charge up front for the game or offer pay-to-win stats. Riot instead decided to focus on the coolness factor almost, tapping into a player base that wanted to support their favorite game and favorite champions by pimping them out with some new skins. And by putting the player experience first, they managed to create a new successful free-to-play business model that the players find fair and rewarding. Riot channeled a lot of this revenue into creating the LCS, which is actually not a profitable enterprise by itself, but it gave the fans what they wanted and kickstarted League as a spectator sport, something that has proven invaluable to the esports industry as a whole. And our next article we're taking a look at today was titled League of Legends Gaming Final Fills Seoul Stadium, Introduction to League of Legends and Riot Games, by the BBC's Stephen Evans. In all honesty, this article is a little bit of a mixed bag. The information it gives on the gameplay of League of Legends is not entirely the best, which isn't ideal for introducing people to the game, but what it does do well is compare League as an esport to traditional sports, talking about the passionate fans, the viewing numbers, the esports celebrities, and the prize money awarded to the victors. Filling out a stadium and giving off the same energy that a traditional sports game would is an awesome way to demonstrate the power of esports. It brings people together across the world in the same way that any other sport would, and giving the general public a glimpse into our world of esports in a way that is more familiar to them is arguably the best way to help people understand that this isn't some isolated craze for people in their bedrooms tapping away on their keyboards. It's real, it's out there, it's in the open, and it's insanely popular for really good reason. Mainstream media coverage of esports is one of the best things that can happen in the industry because of how much it can really help accelerate the growth by getting more people interested and educated about it. Of course, League of Legends players are happiest to see League itself growing, but it definitely does have this trickle-down effect to all other pro games and their players. The bigger League of Legends becomes, the more legitimate esports becomes as an entire industry, and this can only help other games and organizations in the process. Take TSM as a really good example. The success of League of Legends and TSM in it helps grow TSM as an entire organization, and because of that, TSM has loads of other players in other games, such as TSM Leffen. He'll gain more attention and the Smash community will grow because of that attention surrounding him as a result of TSM. And this happens with any team, any esport, and any player that receives attention and respect from mainstream media. So no matter what article regarding esports you guys see in the future, it's pretty much always going to be a good thing overall. Well, looks like that's going to be it for me. If you guys enjoyed the video, drop a like, subscribe if you want. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.
We'll be right back.